Hi there, ho there. Welcome to Podcast Hell, otherwise known as Sports Frenzy 2.0. I'm the maestro, Kevin Crane.
I'm the conquistador, Dave Height. Welcome to episode 1 of season 2.
That's right. We're kicking off 2022 in a more gentle, politically correct way.
Oh, wait, I wasn't supposed to laugh so soon, was I?
Well, because we're not doing that. We're going to rip more people, more new assholes.
Oh, my God, we've got a plethora of them this season.
Oh, you kids are in for a treat this week because the new year brings a fired up maestro, a fired up conquistador.
And lots of morons out there.
So let's get into it, of course. The football season is still in full swing, winding down in the regular season in the NFL.
Yep.
So we've got a lot to talk about when it comes to that. Playoff implications. A lot of teams are set, but the seeding with this extra game makes things a little bit more intriguing. And, of course, the extra wild card team on either side.
Yep. And there's so many teams that have a chance to sneak in this last weekend. Nobody can take the time off.
Well, plus, the interesting thing is, how is every team going to handle this in terms of the bottom feeders? Are they going to tank to try to get the better playoff or the better draft
spot? Yeah.
Are the other teams going to try to fight to get possibly one little edge, like the Cowboys, like the Bucks? Are they going to try
that home
because
game?
the Packers already have that home field advantage
right
throughout the entire NFC playoffs if they can win. But who's going to be the team that's going to slide into that number 2 spot to guarantee themselves home field until that game, until that cold, late January game at Lambeau Field with the douchebag, the MVP, Aaron Rodgers?
I dissent on that completely.
Which part of it?
That he's an MVP.
I was going to say, are you going to really argue he's a douchebag?
No, he's a douchebag. He's just not the MVP this season. There's 2 more qualified candidates.
Dave and I agree on that completely. I think we'll get to that in a little bit. Let's hold off on that. Let's calm down. Let's get zen.
Why?
But I think Dave and I agree that, number one, Aaron Rodgers cries and whines too much. He's not the MVP because he has a great team around him. Number 2, there are at least, as Dave said, 2 worthy candidates, non-quarterback candidates, who should be considered, but because of the bias,
the quarterback bias, it's ridiculous. There are so many more qualified guys through the years that should have been MVP instead of a quarterback.
Yeah, we're looking at we're going on a decade where we've had an MVP who was not a quarterback.
Yeah, it's insane.
We'll get to that. We'll get to Aaron Rodgers, believe me. This could be a 4-segment episode completely and totally about the NFL. But week 17 locked up some things for a lot of teams. The Patriots came out, dominated. They're locked in now. Bill Belichick proves that it was not just Tom Brady. He knows what he's doing. He can
win. He can adjust his coaching style to fit his players.
The Bills also showed up, played hard, played well. So those 2 teams will be fighting it out, granted against inferior opponents.
Much inferior.
Which brings us to your Miami Dolphins.
Oh, my God, they are...
That was abysmal. Not show up after that 7-game winning streak. We predicted it. We thought this was going to happen, but I didn't think it would be this bad.
I did not think that they were going to score a measly 3 freaking points. That was absolutely pathetic. And the defense absolutely disappeared against Tennessee. How are you letting Tannehill throw all over you? Seriously.
Well, how are you letting Donta Foreman run for 130 yards,
That too.
making him look like Derrick Henry, who, by the way, is coming back soon?
He will be there for
If
the playoffs.
the Titans can hold serve this last week and stay with home field advantage, get that week off, bring him back, give him an extra week to rest his foot. Oh boy, that's going to be fun.
For the Titans.
I don't care if it's the Chiefs. I don't care who it is, because the Chiefs proved their vulnerability this past week as the Bengals went with the shootout mode.
Yeah,
let's play video game football.
Ding, 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 ding.
Thank God for Ja'Marr Chase. Thank God. Got me third place in our fantasy football final standings.
Yeah. And D-bag Tyreek Hill once again disappears.
Let me tell you a little story. As much as I am crowing about how Ja'Marr Chase got me third place in our league, one of my other two practice leagues, I benched him.
Oh!
In favor of Antonio Brown.
Oh, yeah, there's...
It cost me the championship. That was the one league where I was in it for the final game, the championship. And I just thought, I remember 2 weeks ago when Ja'Marr Chase did what you're talking about with Tyreek Hill, and he put up like a 2. He just put up an absolute abysmal performance. And I'm like, I can't afford to have a guy put up a 5 or a 6. Yeah. I know Antonio Brown, not seeing what he was going to end up doing this past weekend. The week before, he put up a solid 20 points in our league.
And you expected that again.
That's right. I said, I'll take the 15 to 20 points guaranteed with Godwin out versus the boom or bust.
Right.
With Ja'Marr Chase. And Ja'Marr Chase went boom, boom, boom. 50 freaking points.
That was insane. But
and that also causes concern for the Chiefs. If he can run rampant on the Chiefs secondary, what does that mean for the Chiefs in the playoffs?
It's not going to be.
I'm telling you, I could talk about this for an hour and a half, Dave.
I know you can. Yeah, the Chiefs secondary was so porous. It was pathetic. But that being said, for the Bengals to give up that much with their secondary.
Exactly. And I still think I am still holding to my Super Bowl pick. I still think if the Bills can get their heads out of their asses, which they have been doing the last couple weeks.
They've played better the last few weeks. They've played like we expected them to play all season.
Right.
But this has been such a bizarre season with every team. I mean, my God, look at the Cowboys.
No, I think what happened with that was what we've been talking about the last 3 weeks.
That it finally caught up with them?
That Cliff Kingsbury finally realized if he didn't win that game, he was probably going to get fired. Even though they had qualified for the playoffs, they were going to end up being one of the last seeds, and they were going to get beat on the road, and they were done.
Yeah. And now you see what McCarthy can do for you.
And they lost their third receiver, Michael Gallup, out for the year.
ACL.
Even though he made an unbelievable catch on that play when he did tear his ACL.
Yeah, that's going to hurt him going forward. But they were just couldn't get anything going.
They need to make a decision on running back, the Dallas Cowboys. They gave a lot of money to Ezekiel Elliott. Michael Gallup looks better. He really does.
Yeah,
he's got more of a burst.
Maybe that's a nagging injury from Elliott. He looks tentative.
The problem I have with Zeke is that he seems to me like a guy who took the money and now he doesn't care anymore. And I'm sorry. He doesn't. Derrick Henry is going to come off of foot surgery.
And he's going to light
and he will carry that's why the Titans, if they get home field, I'm not writing them off in terms of getting to the Super Bowl. I'm not.
No, they
can
are
control
going...
the clock, control the ball with Derrick Henry. Again, Dr. Foreman runs for 130 yards. If they can turn that guy into a stud, and they bring back the stud.
That is a solid offensive line. And it doesn't matter who they're going up against.
If they could just get Julio Jones just needs to care about football. He is going to end up being the most overrated wide receiver to ever get in the Hall of Fame. If he gets in the Hall of Fame,
it taints the position.
And we'll get to that in a bit because we got the list of the finalists for the next class of the Football Hall of Fame. And there are a lot of wide receivers ahead of him. And I'm telling you, I don't like Julio Jones. I have never liked Julio Jones. He is a stat whore. One of our favorite terms here on Sports Frenzy, he is a stat whore. What has he ever done to win for the Falcons or now the Titans?
He disappears in the crunch moments.
He's always injured. There's always something wrong. He's always gimpy.
You can tell he takes plays off.
You're starting to see this now with DeAndre Hopkins with the Cardinals.
Yep.
These guys are not Jerry Rice. They're not even Randy Moss. No. Now, Randy Moss, when healthy, would take plays off, but Randy Moss would at least show up
at crunch time.
Right.
He was the one who said, "Give me the ball."
Yeah, he didn't want
me.
He didn't care when the game didn't matter.
Right, but when it was on the line, he wanted to be the guy.
I'm not condoning that, but at the same time, I'll take him any day over Julio Jones or DeAndre Hopkins. These guys can't play through pain. They don't show up when they're needed. Now, A.J. Brown, on the other hand, he comes back from injury. He's been a stud, although last week he dropped the deuce because they didn't need him.
Right.
I don't know. The NFL is so fascinating, so infuriating, so frustrating. Again, we could go on for hours on this podcast, especially now that the season is pretty much wrapped up. We could break down all these teams in the playoffs, out of the playoffs, on the cusp, on the fringe. The Bears, of course, decide to play their best game of the year
against the worst team. God, that was embarrassing for the Giants in no uncertain terms. And I'm sorry, but after that, you cannot keep Mike Glennon in the league at all. He needs to be done.
The one thing you can say about the Bears this year and how Ryan Pace constructed the roster is that we had three quarterbacks. We had three quarterbacks where the Giants had basically half.
Yep, I will agree. I mean,
and we have talked about this all year. We talk about this every year. You've got to have a solid backup quarterback. And the Giants were not prepared if something happened to Daniel Jones, who was not even a proven solid quarterback to begin with.
No, they have to go back to the drawing board and look for another quarterback.
Well, Dave Gettleman supposedly is going to get fired. Joe Judge, the head coach, is... But you hate to bring in a GM.
And saddle him with a coach.
Right. So we'll see how that goes with New York, but they made the Bears look really good.
Yeah.
For 1 week. We'll get to our pick with the Bears and the Vikings coming up soon.
Yeah. And reports are now Nagy has been informed that he will not be retained after the Vikings game. Although earlier today during his presser, he said, no, nobody's told me anything yet. But
one would hope that the Bears are telling the truth because that opens the window for them to interview under the current NFL rules. They can interview coordinators and candidates who are out there.
Right. Hopefully that's the case. Now, GM Ryan Pace is a whole nother story.
I'm hearing rumors that he's coming back.
The rumblings I've heard is Please, I will take this because it means Ted Phillips is finally gone.
Keep Pace.
Pace will move up to president of football operations, bring in a new GM and a new coach.
Yes, I'll take it. I'll take it in
Because
a heartbeat.
Pace, while he has questionable GM moves, there's no doubt he knows the game of football. He knows how it should be operated. And that's by far a huge improvement for the organization over Ted frickin' Phillips, who never should have been in that position.
And we thought before
place.
last season he was going to be gone. And then they brought him back and we're like, oh, Jesus, God. Oh, Jesus. Because he's trying to negotiate the whole deal with the racetrack and that property. And
he doesn't know what the hell he's doing.
Great. So he's a realtor running a football team.
Basically,
that's great.
Yeah, he's Buddy he's a buddy of McCaskey from a business venture that said, "Oh, nudge, nudge, I'll give you this cush position." Ha ha ha.
I could live with Ryan Pace moving up. I could live with that. Now the rumors are swirling that there could be a head coaching candidate. I don't believe it.
I don't want it.
It would take too much money to do it.
I don't want it.
You don't want Jim Harbaugh.
I do not want Jim Harbaugh coaching the Bears.
Even though he's got that connection to the Bears.
I don't care if he has the ties to the Bears. What was the one knock that drove him out of San Francisco? He was unable to develop Colin Kaepernick as a quarterback.
Okay. I'll give you that. And you know the Bears aren't going to spend the money it would take to bring him in, plus pay the buyout at Michigan.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
It's just a pipe dream. Bears fans, it's just a pipe dream. It's not going to happen. You better set your sights a little bit lower. We'll talk about the potential candidates here in the next week or two. I still like Byron Leftwich. I think Byron Leftwich would be a great coach for the Bears.
I want to know what he can do without Tom Brady.
He'll be fine. I think Byron Leftwich knows what he's doing. I do. But again, we've talked about this, Dave. We've talked about this.
Doug Peterson's out there.
I'd rather have Leftwich. I don't want Peterson. I don't.
Del Rio.
Oh, gee, now you're teasing me. Now you're teasing me. You know how much I love Jack Del Rio. Jack Del Rio is my guilty pleasure among coaches. Nobody gives him any credit for what he did with Jacksonville. The man took a train wreck of a team and made them 8-8 every freaking year with David Garrard as quarterback.
They would not give him any players.
But again, it always seems it's the same conundrum we talk about year after year. You hire an offensive coach, the offense sucks. You hire a defensive coach, the defense sucks. You know, it's rare. You look around like maybe Vic Fangio in Denver. Yes, the defense is still good, but he can't run the offense.
Right.
But look at Nagy here with the Bears. Again, Bears defense, good. Bears offense, train wreck.
And it's gotten worse since he got here.
But you wouldn't believe the sympathy around the nation for Matt Nagy this week.
I don't care if he's
because
a nice
the Bears
guy.
played hard against the Giants. Oh, my God. They look like they really care.
I don't care if the players like him and they play for him. He cannot coach that team to a victory. He's supposed to have this great offense to put up points. They have gotten worse and put up fewer and fewer points since he got there. He does not have the ability to adjust.
You know, I agree with you. You know, I do. But it's amazing watching the perspective of the people from the outside looking in, whereas we are Chicago Bears fans, like Hub Arkuch, who we'll get to. We see what's going on week after week, day after day.
Yeah.
And that's why everybody on the Score out of Chicago hates Matt Nagy. Because it's all smoke and mirrors. He doesn't know what he's doing. He really doesn't.
You ask him a question, and he never gives you an answer. He talks around and around, but you get nothing because he doesn't know.
We just want two things in Chicago for the Bears. We want one franchise quarterback in fucking 50 years. Give us one franchise quarterback. Hopefully it's Justin Fields, who will play this Sunday against the Vikings.
And
give us a goddamn
number one wide receiver.
Well, I'd rather have a halfway competent head coach. You know? I don't care. I don't want a prima donna wide receiver. I don't. I'd rather have a bunch of possession slot guys. I just want a competent head coach who can not mess with the defense and give me a quarterback who can run a pro offense without looking like a moron.
Yeah, there was one stat I need to double check.
Well, we have to give kudos. We have ripped on him in the past. And Ryan Pace should get a little credit for this. Even though the first year Robert Quinn looked like trash, he has stepped up this year, big time.
Oh my God.
With Khalil Mack being out for the majority of the year, Robert Quinn has had a phenomenal year. He sets the Bears sack record, and that's legitimate because he did it in 16 games. Not in 17, 16. He got 18 sacks here this past week against the Giants, beating Richard Dent, Bears legend, one of my favorite players of all time.
Yep.
17 and a half. So kudos to Robert Quinn.
This is the Quinn we expected previously.
Yes. Yes. And again, this defense always carries the team. Always. And it's just ridiculous because we at some point have got to get an offense that can score 25, 30 points a game. And then we are headed to the Super Bowl because this defense, year in, year out, always shows up.
They're solid. They
know when they sign a contract with the Chicago Bears, if they're a defensive player, they better show up. That's what we expect out of our defense.
Yeah. All right. Why I mentioned receiver. Our all-time receiving leader from the 1958 to 67 seasons is Johnny Morris with 5,059 yards. That's the Bears' all-time leading receiver in yardage.
Jesus Christ. That is pathetic.
Harlan Hill from 54 to 61, 4,616. Alshon Jeffries third with 4,549. Walter Payton as a running back is fourth with 4,538.
You can't use weather as an excuse either because look at Davante Adams. Davante Adams probably in 3 or 4 years destroys that record. Destroys that record. The Packers probably have at least 7 or 8 receivers. Sterling Sharp. You know, you could pick tons of receivers out of the Packers playing at Lambeau who have destroyed that all-time record for the Bears.
Yeah. And that's over 9 seasons.
We cannot use weather as an excuse.
No.
It's quarterback play. It's coaching. And the sad thing is, after we beat the Giants 29-3, if we beat the Vikings this weekend, we are tied for second. And again, Nagy will put that on his resume and go, oh, look, I'm not that bad of a coach.
And you know, the sad thing is if we beat the Vikings, the Bears drop another 5 draft positions.
That's okay, though. That's okay. Because
in the second round. But that hoses the Giants.
Right. I know you're thinking of the second round, but I'm thinking of the first round. Screw the Giants.
Yep.
Screw the Giants. Win the game, screw the Giants. I'm all for that. All right, we got to talk about my Buccaneers real quick here because of that whole meltdown with Antonio Brown. What the fuck was that? What the fuck was that? Again, he's another guy. Just when you
prima donna head case, and yeah, you can lament he needs to get help. He does. But I'm sorry, enough is enough already.
Yes.
The
He's
guy
gotten
is a
chance
disaster.
after chance after chance.
And he
after
never
chance
should have had this
after
last
chance.
one.
No, after the false vaccination card,
He should have been let go.
if Godwin had not gotten hurt, I think they would have let him go. But Arians knew, the front office knew, that with Godwin out for the year, they had to have him. Evans was gimpy.
Yep.
They had to bring him back. And I don't know what the hell happened. It's still unclear if he didn't want to go back in. That doesn't make any sense to me.
No,
Because he needed the incentives. He was putting $1 million on the table if he didn't come back in for the last game and a half.
Yeah.
He's basically flushing $1 million down the toilet in incentives.
Basically, he needed, if he would have gotten a touchdown reception of, I think it was over 25 yards, he would have hit all of his incentives.
He would have been fine. He would have been fine playing the rest of the year. Another shot. Again, I'm assuming he's a normal football player who wants to win.
Obviously not.
I can't fathom what's wrong with him. And of course, now we're hearing all the excuses. Oh, it's CTE because of the hit he took years ago when he was at the Steelers with Vontaze Burfict. I hope he gets the help he needs, but he is a train wreck.
He has to be done
and
in the
problem
NFL.
is, it's not just on the field, it's off the field. He has issues off the field,
He's
too.
always had issues off the field, even before that hit.
So that's the thing. Tom Brady takes, again, the high road. Tom Brady wins the game, throwing the ball to an unknown receiver, beats the Jets, and then when they're bombarding him with questions about Antonio Brown ripping off his pads, throwing his jersey into the stands, Tom Brady, again, the GOAT, takes the high road and says, I hope he gets the help he needs. We'll always be here for him. Arians is, I love him as a head coach, but he plays both sides of the fence. He says he's no longer a Buccaneer. Yet as of today, he is still on the roster.
They haven't released him. Why?
I don't understand that. I would have cut his ass, but now again, he said we have to discuss this with the front office.
The front office has said we're discussing this with the league on what we can do.
Because they're trying to save money. They want to know if they have any cap space. Can they bring in somebody who's sitting out there unsigned and see how much it would cost them to do that? I'm sorry. I understand there's this whole movement for mental health right now. And I've always said I want people every week. You should be able to go talk to somebody for 60 minutes for free or for a minimal $30, $40 copay.
But you have a freaking job to do. Your job is to play the game of football and be there for your teammates. And when you quit like that, that tells you what kind of character a person is. When you are making hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, and you have access to all this help and all that you need. There's no excuse. We've seen this earlier this year. Calvin Ridley quit on the Falcons, and we're supposed to feel bad for him. I don't feel bad for Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley makes millions of dollars a year. The rest of us make $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year. That's a tough nut for us to crack, to go talk to somebody. He gets to go whenever he wants to go talk to somebody, yet he quit on his team. And now Antonio Brown does it in dramatic Broadway fucking fashion. Look at me. Look at me.
And you wonder why we hate these athletes sometimes.
To be continued in segment 2.
Because you know why? I think we've got to talk about Mr. Lateral Thinker. Stay tuned, kids. We'll be right back.
In a world of politically correct sports coverage, two individuals stand alone as the last bastion of sanity. The Maestro and the Conquistador star in Sports Frenzy 2.0, the podcast.
Available on Spotify, Anchor, Google, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, Breaker, Apple, Overcast, and CastBox.
Hey kids, it's segment 2 of the weekend edition of Sports Frenzy 2.0. I'm the Conquistador Dave Height.
I'm the maestro, Kevin Crane.
And this one, we're going to tackle our movie review of the week, and then I have a book review to follow. So we're going to start out reviewing Being the Ricardos.
Yeah, on Amazon Prime, a contender for many awards here coming up in the Oscar Golden Globe season.
You know, if I had known that, I probably would not have watched it.
We've been talking about that over the last 2 or 3 weeks. We've been talking about that between the Power of the Dog, Don't Look Up. At least this was a little better.
This one I was intrigued, having grown up watching the I Love Lucy reruns, the Lucille Ball show. This was some vested interest, personally, from the cultural standpoint. Knowing later on in life the issues that they had as a couple.
Now, the one thing that I could tell kept this from being a true great expose of the lives of Lucy and Ricky was that when I heard that the Lucille Ball family had a complete control over the content, I was like, okay, we're not going to get the full story. We're never going to get the full story.
No.
And it came off, to me, it came off like that.
They gave you enough to intuit what was really going on.
And of course, it takes place, for the most part, they do flashbacks.
There's flashbacks to
but it's 1 week, one very, very hard, controversial week in the lives of Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz.
She's accused of being a communist during the whole Red Scare time, and they're waiting the whole week for the fallout and what's going to happen to determine, does I Love Lucy continue?
Meanwhile, she's pregnant and she's having issues with Desi Arnaz in terms of fidelity. Is he faithful or is he not?
Yeah, that whole bit, you could feel the tension there, what she was going through with her.
And you got tension with their co-stars.
Yes. Yeah.
Vivian Vance and
Bill
Frawley. Right. Played great. J.K. Simmons is just awesome.
I was going to say, J.K. Simmons is the best.
He is one of the best actors out there right now.
Yeah.
He's already won an Academy Award for Whiplash.
Yeah. He should get a supporting for this one.
He is really one of the central points of this movie. He is a focus in this movie. He is the rock. He is the moral center. I'm not trying to overstate what he did.
No.
But they do make a point of him being the stabilizing force through this whole week of chaos.
Yeah. Yeah. You would think, he's an alcoholic.
He admits that right away.
Right. But the clarity that he brings for everything going on during that week.
Right.
And there's issues between Frawley and Vivian Vance, personally. But there's a moment where everybody kind of comes together as that true family unit on the set.
Right. So again, this was a tough one for me to review. I had a lot of positives and a lot of negatives as I watched this. Javier Bardem, I don't know what to make of his portrayal of Desi Arnaz because it seemed too easy for him. When I actually did like him in No Country for Old Men because he had to do something different. This didn't seem like
This wasn't a stretch for him.
Right. It just didn't seem like he was trying.
No, it just kind of fell to him.
Right. That being said, Nicole Kidman should get Best Actress.
She should. I
Brilliant,
was blown.
brilliant portrayal of Lucille
I
Ball.
was very apprehensive of her being cast as Lucille Ball, but my God, she nailed
She
it.
was fantastic. Absolutely
she
fantastic.
was brilliant.
And the thing is, the way they wrote the character, they I don't want to say they make her sympathetic because I think the problem is the screenplay. The screenplay focuses so much on that one scene during the week when they're making that one episode,
right?
While all this other stuff, the communist stuff, the pregnancy stuff, the infidelity stuff is going on.
They focus on the dinner
She's
table.
trying to say, I want the dinner scene to look this way. And they're trying to tell her, no, it doesn't work that way. Let's do the other way. But meanwhile, the sponsors want to drop out because of the pregnancy, and it's just chaos.
And they want to bring the pregnancy into the show,
but they don't know how.
Right. But that was her. I think that was her way of focusing on something to not have to fall apart with everything else going around.
I agree with that. Yeah.
She was so focused on that part to distract her from everything else.
And I'm sure somewhere there's a metaphor there in that whole scene about what was going on,
Yeah.
The whole thing about how we arranged the chairs. She was so obsessed with, well, why would Ricky come in and put his hands over my eyes and we start rattling off names? She's trying to say Lucy's not stupid.
Right.
Even though the scripts are trying to be more slapstick and for lack of a better term, saying Lucy is stupid.
Right.
Lucy wanted to make her character less stupid.
Right.
So I admire that, what she was trying to do. At the same time, at the end, what do they say? They say they went with the original scene because slapstick, it worked better.
Yeah, for the slapstick part of it.
And I'm sorry, we're not spoiling anything.
No. Now,
we'll get to that later. I've got spoiler stuff later for you.
No, there's one overriding theme about home.
Right. She's very obsessed about having a home.
Not a house, 3 houses where they live, but a true home.
Right.
And doing the one opening the way she wanted to do it, that hit her hard. And that's where she decided to go with the original. So I'm not going to spoil it. You have to see how that all plays out.
Right. Yeah, we're not trying to but again, it's not that hard to figure out what we're talking about.
Right.
Based on the history, it's all out there. This, again, was a difficult movie for me to review because I had a lot of negatives about it, but a lot of positives. I'm going to go 2.5 frenzies. And I, again, stress with all the crap that gets nominated for Golden Globes and Oscars, Nicole Kidman should win for Best Actress. She is unbelievable as Lucille Ball.
Yeah. See, now I was going to give it a 3 because I had such low expectations for this and didn't think she could pull it off. And I was completely blown away by her performance. And watching this one, I was actually enthralled, and the 2+ hours flew by for me.
Yeah, it wasn't quite that good for me. I did have some issues again, like I said.
There were issues here and there, but I think
Vivian Vance, whoever played her, came off as a little bit
conceited,
needy, conceited, overwrought.
Yeah.
We all get it. Yes, we know it. We saw the show.
We know that there were issues there.
Yes, he was much older than you.
Deal with it.
Yeah.
But no, just the performance by Nicole Kidman and J.K. Simmons.
Yep, 2 great performances. Yeah, 2. I can't give it more than 2.5 though. It just, there were parts of it that dragged to me, parts of it that I didn't like. Again,
I can
the
see
Vivian
that.
Vance stuff.
I kind of toned her out.
And I did like the fact, again, we haven't even talked about the writers and that whole dynamic. That was a problem with me. That was probably why I would drop it to 2.5.
You didn't like the way they introed and...
because, again, they're making it seem like, women are misrepresented and men are overrepresented. They make the doofus guy, and of course the woman's got to be the close friend of Lucille Ball. I try to write everything to make you look good. Come on. All right, come on with this crap.
Say now I discounted that and just took it as it was.
And she did abuse her executive producer. That guy tried his best, and he kept getting beat up through the entire movie. He was just trying to keep everything going, keep the ship afloat,
keep the train on the rails.
Yeah, and she treated him like garbage. That was the one thing.
But she recognized it at the end and apologized for it.
Yes, she did.
She owned up to it at the end of that week.
So, very, very good. Not great. Very, very good.
Yeah, it's worth watching if you were a fan of the show.
Yeah, I don't know how anybody younger than 45, how they would look at this, because they don't understand the history.
This is a tough one. Yeah, I think anybody under age 40 will have a real tough go with it.
Because they don't understand how we would watch I Love Lucy. It was all that was on TV.
Yeah. And as they
reruns in the afternoon when we came home from school.
Yeah. As they said at the beginning, when it was running live, 60 million people a week tuned into it, where today, if you get 10 to 12, you're lucky.
Yeah. It's unbelievable.
That was must-see TV before it was a thing.
Yep. Absolutely. Now, next week, I will have a review of The Matrix Resurrections. I am halfway through it.
I'm debating with myself if I'm going to subject myself to it or not.
Well, we could make that our review for next week.
I will try. I can't guarantee I will watch it.
That's okay. I will take a definite maybe.
So
that's fine.
I like the first. I did not like the second and third, and I don't know that I can subject myself, but I will give it a shot.
So far, I'm halfway through it. So far, all I will say is that I don't think it matters if you've seen anything other than the first. That's all I'll say.
Okay.
Dave, I have a little bit of movie tidbits that will appeal to basically only you and me. So screw everybody else. If you don't like what we like,
we don't
care. But you'll love this. This is going to be interesting for you. I got news this week that there is a movie coming out called God's Country, starring Thandie Newton, based on a short story from James Lee Burke.
You had me at James Lee Burke.
The story is called Winter Light. It is in his 2007 short story compilation, Jesus Out to Sea. The original story was published in 1992.
Damn.
So I did pull out Jesus Out to Sea. I did read it this past week, the story. It's only 25 pages.
Holy crow.
So it's going to be really interesting to see how they expand this story and make it into a full-length movie.
So could this be like them turning Stephen King's The Body into Stand By Me?
It could, but the thing is, here's what I'm wondering. Reading the story, which I hope you will
take.
Get
I took note. It's
get
Burke.
that out of the
I'm
library
going
and
to read it.
Again, it's only you'll knock it out in 10 minutes. But I find it interesting that they cast this with Thandie Newton as a woman, whereas the main character in the short story is a man. And there are certain things about the story that I don't think translate well going to a woman from a man.
Why do they
I
have
want
to
you
F with things?
Basically, I want you to read the story and get back to me.
Okay.
Does it intrigue me? Yeah. But again,
But
25 pages.
does it intrigue you for the right reasons?
Well, the thing is, I actually mentioned this to my daughter, and she says, I think this is the way movies should be made. And she now bear with me here. She has a good point. Take the core idea, the nugget, the idea of the story, and expand it, and let the filmmaker do what they will with it.
If it's a short story,
Now,
like
James Lee Burke, you and I don't want anybody to fuck with James Lee Burke's work because he's so fantastic. But that being said, it's 25 pages.
So if it's just an idea, basically.
It is basically an idea.
Which lends to interpretation. So I will try and keep an open mind and see if it fits.
I just don't see how this will work.
I will take a gander.
Now, he's already been on film twice before in terms of his books that we know.
Right.
With Heaven's Prisoners and In the Electric Mist. Some of his older Western stories have been Two for Texas.
Right.
But
I'm still waiting for White Doves.
See, I don't think they'd ever... Would a Civil War movie fly anymore? No pun intended.
Don't know, but that story is just so fucking good.
I find it interesting, and we'll get to Yellowstone in the next segment. The whole James Lee Burke vibe is coming back. I mean, if you think about it, Yellowstone, and now with the whole franchise 1883 that...
Oh my God, are we lending ourselves to the Holland family opus?
That's what I'm saying. Are we looking at something like that?
Oh,
James Lee Burke came up with this, and now Tyler Sheridan with what he's doing with Yellowstone is basically...
Bitterroot could be so well done.
But I agree with you. White Doves at Morning, such an unbelievable book, would be phenomenal. Phenomenal if you put it in the right hands, if you have the right director.
If you have the right screenwriter and the right director.
But you and I also believe that Robichaux, you still could do the best Robichaux book ever.
We haven't had it yet.
No, we haven't. All right, kids.
Speaking of books, I do have a review for this week. The Nameless Ones by John Connolly. The latest in the pseudo-supernatural mystery fiction world revolves around Maine detective Charlie Parker and his cohorts. This one actually revolves around what you would call his two best friends, the assassin for hire Lewis and the master thief Angel, his partner, in more ways than one. Lewis learns that his European mentor and sometimes boss for certain jobs has been murdered as an act of revenge. And so Lewis takes it upon himself to avenge his murder against Serbian war criminal brothers in a traipse of murder and mayhem across Europe. And for having the two secondary characters come to the forefront in this one was very well done. And I really liked how Connolly went in this different route with the two characters and bringing it together. So I'm giving this one 3. Just for the hunt and everything going on, some of the side stuff and different past stories coming back into play. Very, very well done interweaving everything together. I really like the way Connolly writes.
And as I mentioned, I am trying as a New Year's resolution to read more, to get somewhat caught up. I'll never read as much as Dave, never in a holy day in hell. But we're going to try to review a few more books this year together.
Yeah.
Of course, we got the new Ace Atkins, Robert B. Parker coming up here in January.
Yep.
And we will definitely work on that. I will get the latest Reacher done here in the next couple weeks. We will review Better Off Dead before the debut of the Reacher series on Amazon Prime.
Yep. Yeah, I just got done with Killing Floor, rereading that as well. I disappointed myself this year. I did not make what I like to have as my goal of averaging a book a week. I did not get at least 52. I only wound up with 47.
But my God.
But I did play a lot more video games at night when I would usually be reading.
And that's to me like, you read so much, which is phenomenal, but then you say you could have read more, but you played video games. And I play video games, but damn, I would prefer to cut the video games out and read more.
Balance.
I know.
I was looking back, and it was was it like 3 years ago, I got through 70 books in a year.
Again, I get through 10 at best a year.
So, but at the same time, that was the year I played catch up and was reading all of the Robert B. Parker Spencer books, which are quick and you can get through them. And so there were a few weeks where I was getting through 2 or 3 of those a week.
Yeah, they are quick. I'll admit that.
So,
yep. And I can't wait for the new one. Bye Bye Baby, right?
Yeah.
Coming out here in a couple weeks. Dave and I will definitely review that. Ace Atkins is so good.
It's
in terms of how he has been able to carry on the Spencer books.
It's almost seamless.
Yeah.
That you could tell there was a little transition in the first one.
And I said I do not like the younger girl. I can't stand her.
If we can cut that down to a bare minimum,
right,
we would be in much better shape.
Right. And Dave and I have always said you can make that work. McNally, Lawrence Sanders, Vincent Lardo. I wish they had never stopped doing that. Vincent Lardo took over the McNally series.
That had to have been the most seamless transition.
Lardo was perfect.
Ever.
And it was just sad that they cut that series off. They should have let Lardo keep going with that.
Yeah. Missed McNally.
Yep, I do too. And, who knows what's going to happen with Burke when he passes.
Yeah.
Because Alifair is now taking over from Mary Higgins Clark.
Right. She's got her own thing, the way she does stuff. Right. I don't think she would have transitioned.
I would hope they've got somebody else lined up to take over for Burke. Anybody, or they just let the series quietly fade away.
See, now when I reviewed The Devil's Sea, Clive Cussler's Dirk Pitt, now being written by Dirk. They had written a few together, and so now it was a really smooth transition.
Well, and that's what you figure. Jesse Kellerman's going to take over for Jonathan.
Oh,
I
God
know,
help us.
I know. I'm not a big fan of Jesse Kellerman. I don't think he's a great writer.
God help us.
But you know that's where that's heading.
That's going to have to.
So good to talk about books. We need to sneak books in every once in a while. Keep you people educated.
We're not completely uncultured swine.
But speaking of which, we're going to go back into some TV and streaming here in a couple seconds.
And there could be a story time involved.
That's right. I do have 2 more movie notes before we wrap segment 2 up. COVID. They're saying it's not COVID, but I say bullshit.
Morbius being pushed back to April.
Morbius gets pushed back from January 28th to April the 1st.
Yeah,
they say it's because they're scared of the fact that Spider-Man will still be taking over all the IMAX. Spider-Man, after 5 weeks, will not be taking over all the IMAX screens. You're scared of COVID.
Everybody coming out of seeing Spider-Man after having seen the trailer for Morbius, we're talking about being anxious to see Morbius.
They're scared of COVID.
They're scared of COVID because the Marvel fan base is anxious to see this one.
Look at how Venom, the second Venom, even with the shadow of COVID, did better than the first. Now, you can say that's because Carnage was involved, but I think people want this. I think Marvel hates this because Sony has got this Spider-Man universe wrapped up. They've got Kraven if they want to go Kraven. Now they've got Morbius.
Oh my God, if you could bring Kraven the Hunter in
on his own movie.
Nick, my youngest, would go freaking ballistic.
Spider-Man's villains, you could do 7, 8. You could do Scorpion.
Yep.
You could do a standalone Green Goblin.
Yeah.
You could.
We were expecting Kraven the Hunter.
You could do Dr. Octopus. Yeah. You could do the Lizard.
Yeah. We were expecting Kraven the Hunter to be part of No Way Home because he was on the run.
You could just cash in if you're Sony. Keep cashing in on these characters without giving up anything to Disney.
Exactly. You can do so much. You showed what you could do with No Way Home.
You and I love racing movies.
Yes, we do.
How do you feel about Brad Pitt starring in a movie about Formula One?
Oh, God. I don't like Brad Pitt as an actor. So automatically that's one strike against it.
He's going to supposedly play a older driver mentoring a younger F1 driver.
Oh, God. Why do I see train wreck written all over this?
Finally, in our movie news, before we wrap up segment 2, move on to TV and streaming, dumbasses and moments of silence. Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, will not be in the final Fast and Furious movie because as much as Vin Diesel wanted him to be in, he reached out to him. Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, says, bullshit. He's a phony.
You know what? Good. I don't want Dwayne Johnson in the next Fast and Furious. Dwayne Johnson is in too many damn movies right now as it is.
And I've got to review Fast and Furious 9 here. I have got it. I have not watched it yet. I've got to watch it. Get that review out here pretty soon. But yeah, Hobbs and Shaw.
It was entertaining.
Yeah.
It wasn't phenomenal, but it was entertaining.
Boy, I mean, the last Fast and Furious is either going to be phenomenal or an absolute train wreck. I can see that. It's not going to be in between.
No.
one way or the other.
We need to come up with a new metaphor. We've used train wreck quite often tonight.
Jump the shark. Happy days. Dave and I are going to be right back, kids. Hold on.
Listen to Sports Frenzy 2.0, the weekend edition, on Spotify, Anchor, Google, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, Breaker, Apple, Overcast, and Castbox, as the Maestro and Conquistador give their reviews and news on music, movies, TV, books, and more every Saturday. They can't help themselves. They have no control over this need to talk and scream. It's inside them. The fire, the voices, the torment.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. The final segment of the weekend edition of Sports Frenzy 2.0, taping here on the 5th of January 2022. This will hit the morning of the 8th. Welcome aboard. We've already done music. We've already done movies. So what's left? TV and streaming. Now, if you have a Roku stick, you have access to the Roku channel. And there was a little gem that dropped here the past couple weeks called Slugfest, which I'm going to review for all you comic book geeks out there. Slugfest is a short 10-episode recap of the history of DC versus Marvel. Only 12 minutes every episode.
Wow.
Narrated by Kevin Smith, of course.
Of course.
Every episode has an actor from comic book movies playing a character in comic book history. So you've got people playing Stan Lee, prominent members of DC, prominent members of Marvel.
Very cool.
So, again, do the math. 10 episodes, 12 minutes. So basically, it's about the length
of a comic book.
Length of a movie. Right? It's about
overall,
2 hours.
Yeah.
2 hours.
But each episode is about what it would take you to get through a comic book.
There you go. So they do a really good job of not focusing on the overall arc of the history, but they focus on specific moments. Like the first one's about Nazis, and of course that more about Superman, Captain America.
Right.
They never talk about the X-Men at all, which I found interesting.
Really? Even with the whole Magneto?
Nope. No X-Men talk whatsoever. They bring in at the end, of course, the death of Superman and how that jump-started the comic book industry. But yeah, the X-Men are ignored, basically.
Wow.
It's really
that's
about
kind of what started everything off.
Yeah,
for Marvel.
it's an interesting look. Again, it's not all encompassing, but a lot of the things they look at are very cool. The dynamics between big part of it, Stan Lee jumping from Marvel to DC, which people don't remember.
Oh, with that big fallout that was.
Stan Lee jumped from Marvel to DC and then did, Just Imagine? And he reimagined all the major DC characters if he had been able to write them. So it's a very interesting 12-part or 10-part series, 12 minutes for every episode. I give it 3 frenzies. It's not comprehensive, but you will learn a lot about the comic industry and what happened from the 40s all the way through till the late 1900s. Again, all the way through the death of Superman. The death of Robin is a big topic in it, where we hear about Jason Todd and what happened to him. I know the boys
moving into Red Hood territory.
Right. Very cool, very interesting. must have been easy money for Kevin Smith because he basically does.
That's his life outside of directing is comics.
Yeah, but he basically does no work on this. I mean, he does 5 minutes of work every episode. So you wonder how much he got paid. But the thing is, again, very notable actors in every episode, from the Ticks, Patrick Warburton.
Nice. Putty
Plays Batman at one point, quote unquote Batman. Brandon Routh, who played Superman, shows up early on.
Nice.
It's just interesting to see all these people who are jumping in and having fun and participating in this little quick snack food edition of the history of comics. So
very cool.
I also, of course, have to review season 4 of Yellowstone, which I will be very cautious about, and we will get to that later on. I'm not an asshole. I don't spoil things like some other websites and people do. All I will say is season 4 of Yellowstone reaffirms a lot of the things I have felt about the characters throughout the first 4 seasons.
The good, the bad, the ugly.
Beth is the biggest bitch in the history of television. It's not even close. And I feel bad because I love Rip. Cole Hauser as Rip is the coolest dude since Sonny Crockett. He is so awesome. He lives by his code.
That's all you can expect.
He owes John Dutton. He knows he owns John Dutton. He is loyal beyond belief, but at the same time, I don't understand why he loves Beth Dutton, because God, she's a bitch. God, she's a bitch. She's evil. Rip is like the only person in the world she cares about. Maybe her father, maybe.
Definitely not her brothers. Forget that.
Oh, my God. Again, I'm not spoiling anything. This is stuff you've watched the show. You know what I'm talking about. Season 4 ends with, again, Beth somehow ending up on top. No pun intended.
Oh.
But Beth, it looked like earlier in the season she might meet her downfall and she might get knocked down a peg or two. And it turns right back around and she ends up, she's in charge of everything. I won't tell you why. I won't tell you how. Costner, as her father, still loves her. He tries.
Don't know how.
He tries. He's trying to somehow figure out that relationship. I think he realizes she's evil, but he still loves her. So, 3.5 for season 4 of Yellowstone. Still best show on TV. Unbelievable.
There you go.
Unbelievably good. So, couple more notes on television, and then Dave has got story time.
Yes, I do.
I did say I was going to recap day 1 wrestling. I will not go into vast detail, but the one thing that was really disappointing and stupid was that there was supposed to be a big championship match between Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns.
Right, that was supposed to be the phenomenal match.
Roman Reigns had COVID.
Oh, son of a...
So Brock Lesnar, they pushed him into the other big match. So it turned into a fatal 5-way.
Oh, God.
For the other title. He got that. He won that. So now you got Lesnar's got one title. Reigns has got the other.
The showdown will be there at some point.
Yeah, we got Survivor Series coming up, and then of course WrestleMania is probably where you're going to see it. You know, the throwdown between the two of them.
Yeah.
Fuck. I hate Paramount Plus. I hate paying for fucking streaming services because now the word comes out. Mike Judge says there will be a new Beavis and Butthead movie.
But only on Paramount Plus.
Fuck! I hate pay TV streaming shit.
We're tired of it.
You are so well read. Did you ever read The Devil in the White City?
I did.
I figured you did because I had faith in you.
I have read that
Hulu
one.
is coming out finally. This adaptation has been in the works for decades.
Well, yeah, because you talk about a convoluted story.
It happens at the World's Fair at the turn of the century,
Yeah.
right?
On one hand, you've got the guy responsible for trying to outdo France and Paris with their exposition, bringing the World's Fair to Chicago and everything he's dealing with, trying to get everything going. And the other storyline is the evil murdering bastard who's taken up residence and preying on people.
Guess who is in line to play the lead? Hulu is going to have
the main architect or the murderer.
All I know is it's who is supposed to star in it. I can't tell you which. I don't know. Originally, remember way back in the day, it was supposed to be Leo DiCaprio. And now he's taken a turn. Now he's executive producing.
Okay.
I don't think you're going to like this.
Probably won't.
Keanu Reeves. Could you see him playing one or the other?
Actually, I kind of could.
Which one? Or both?
He could probably pull off either one. At this point, I would put him probably as the architect.
I'm not signing up for Hulu just for this, though.
Oh, hell no. No.
But I figured you'd read the book, Eric Larson's. I mean,
Yeah.
that book's been...
It's been out forever, but I've only read it within the last 2 years.
It's borderline legendary. I mean,
it is.
It's one of the
so
most,
freaking well done.
Right. The most recognized nonfiction books, right? It's nonfiction.
Right.
Of the last 20 years.
Yeah. But no, it is very well done.
All right, one more little tidbit to make you happy, and then you go into story time. Did you see the trailer for season 6 of Peaky Blinders?
I have not seen the trailer
because I know how much you love Peaky Blinders.
I love Peaky Blinders.
The final season of Peaky Blinders is
finally.
coming.
It's only been 4 years.
But I know you love that show.
I do. I got hooked into that one. So
and I tried. I watched a couple, and I'm sorry I bailed.
It
so many hours in a day. I don't know. I couldn't.
If it doesn't suck you in right away, you're not going to get sucked in.
Exactly.
And when I started watching it, there's just something about it that sucked me in.
All right, dude. Story time. What do you got for us?
All right.
Uncle Dave.
Story time. So, New Year's Day. Wound up for dinner. My mom decided we'll get a prime rib for New Year's. She went a little cuckoo crazy with an 18-pounder. Brought it home and we're like, holy crap. So we're cooking it up and we're like, good God. All right, let's invite the neighbors over. So we invited our neighbors and their 8 kids. So after the Notre Dame bowl game was winding up, they came over, brought a couple of sides, and we tore into that bad boy. And what are you going to do with all the kids that range anywhere from the age 6 to 22? Well, I remember them telling me that their favorite movie to watch together was Speed Racer. I, being the huge fan, have the entire series on DVD, the cartoon. And so I said, hey, while you guys are eating, would you like to watch the cartoon? And my boys are all over it. And everyone's like, oh, yeah, that would be great. And so they got it set up. And so the 10 kids are in the other game, what we call the game room, watching Speed Racer while eating. The cartoon, the original. So they go through 4 episodes, and I wander in from time to time, and all of them are like, oh my God, this is so great. It's cheesy, but it's great. We love it. Thank you. And so they're watching it, and of course that leads, they have to watch the movie.
Oh, see, that's what I was worried about. I was worried you were heading to the movie.
I know you didn't care for it. It lacked a lot based on it, but it was still entertaining enough. But the cool thing was just to walk by and look in that room and see all 10 kids spread out on all the furniture, laid out on the floor, and raptured watching it, laughing, just getting along. It was an awesome sight.
That's cool.
A great start
That's
for the
cool.
new year.
I can put up with the Wachowskis' Speed Racer if it brings the youth of America together.
Yeah, it was an awesome night.
And again, as we mentioned earlier, Dave and I will subject ourselves to The Matrix Resurrections, another Wachowski.
Yep, we'll see
debacle.
how this one goes. So, but it was cool. The kids were watching that while the adults were watching bowl games. So, there you go.
All right, moments of silence. Of course, this is going to be tough for me because I'm going to sound like an asshole. Shocking. Shocking. But of course, first and foremost, in the entertainment world this week, Betty White passed away at 99 years old. The first thing that came to mind for me is that, God, fate is so cruel. You couldn't let her live another couple weeks
to hit 100.
This is why I have no faith in God or the cosmos or any kind of celestial being. Why would you do that? Let her live to 100. Do you understand
Maybe she
how
didn't...
important that would have been to all of us?
Yeah.
And to her?
But maybe it wasn't to her.
True.
She was probably at that point where she was ready.
Now is where I become an asshole. If you didn't think I was an asshole before, now you're going to find out me being an asshole. In 2 parts. Part number 1. Nobody disputes the fact she was a nice woman. Everything I've heard, she's a wonderful woman, kind. But I've never understood why she became the cultural icon she did. Because what did she really... The Golden Girls?
She had her run early doing TV game show stuff. I know a lot of people will say it went back to her bit role in the horrible horror flick Lake Placid.
Oh, God.
That's kind of what...
But do you understand where I'm coming from? I mean,
yeah. How she became a focal point as a cultural icon.
Yeah, and again, I understand maybe in this day and age because of the fact she was actually a nice human, a decent human being.
I think that's what it was, is she was kind, and you
Right.
don't have that.
Right. And that's fine. I get that, but if that's what it's come to, wow. Now here's part number 2 where I come off like an asshole. There was somebody that passed away personally for me that affected me more than Betty White. I loved the show Comic Book Men on AMC. I loved it. It was on for 6, 7 seasons.
Yeah.
Kevin Smith, of course, runs his comic book shop, Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash,
Right.
in Red Bank, New Jersey. Robert Bruce was the guy they would call in every 2-3 episodes to really evaluate and price the value of certain comics or action figures or pieces of memorabilia. And he was found dead in a storage unit where he was supposedly working and living out of a storage unit. He had his office in there. That's where he was living.
Wow.
And they found him. He'd passed away. Again, I know everybody's going to poo-poo me and say, how does this compare? To me, Robert Bruce passing away was more important because I have all that memorabilia. I have all
You
that.
had a connection with who he
Right.
was and what he did.
Right. And to hear he died in a storage unit and he was using that as his living space as well as his office is just so sad. And again, I watched him for all those years, every couple of weeks on Comic Book Man. It kind of hits me a little bit harder. So
I can see that.
I apologize because it's not Betty White, but to me, it's more personal. Now, that being said, I have some dumbasses. Pivot. Time to go from being sad to being angry. First off, I'm going to start with one that I was going to bring up a couple weeks ago, and I backed off because of the holidays. I thought I'd be a nice guy and not be a jerk. But now, obviously, again, because they stepped on my toes again, I have to be a jerk. Deadline.com, great source for entertainment news. For the second time in the last month, they spoiled a show for me. First was Hawkeye. Now,
then don't go to the site.
But I have to get my entertainment news. They are the best source, but they spoiled the Yellowstone finale for me.
Do they do it right in the headline?
They think they're being clever. They say, well, this happened, but we're not going to tell you to what character. But you tell me this happened. By the time I get halfway through the episode, I can figure out with half a brain who or what is going to happen to who or what. This is what you get from the dipshit West Coast liberal idiots who say, if you didn't watch the show live, you deserve what you get. They won't give you 1 day. You don't get 1 day to fucking watch the show before they spoil it for you. Now, here's the amazing thing. They spoiled Hawkeye. They spoiled Yellowstone, but they still have not spoiled Spider-Man. How the hell does that? What? Spider-Man's been out for a fucking month.
Did Sony pay him off to not spoil it?
I don't know, but it makes me wonder.
Conspiracy theory. Conspiracy frenzy. Sony paid him off.
All right, bud. Have you heard of Dry January?
I have.
where we're not supposed to drink. in
Yeah,
January.
right. Kiss my ass.
Well, I am calling out this entire idea of dry January as a dumbass, but I want to give a backhanded compliment to PBR, Pabst Blue Ribbon, because when they heard about this idea on their, I think it was Facebook or Instagram page, maybe
Yeah.
Twitter, they said, well, you know, if you don't want to drink beer, why don't you just drink ass? Somebody came back and said, what's the difference between PBR and ass? Whoever's running the Twitter page or whatever for PBR came back and said, ask your mom. And I guess this went on and on and on. This
oh my
whole
God,
exchange.
that's brilliant.
So while I
Oh,
think the
God.
idea of dry January qualifies
As
a dumbass, kudos to whoever's
that's
running.
got millennial bullshit written all over
Kudos
it.
to whoever is running the PBR Twitter page or whatever it is.
I like it. I may have to go out and buy a 6 or a PBR for that one.
My next dumbass of the week. The idiot who decided we needed a Yoko Ono tribute album.
Oh, sweet God. What, are they just putting a bunch of cats in a room full of rocking chairs going? get it?
Ocean Child will be coming out soon. What is the obsession with this woman? What is the obsession with this woman? This no talent woman?
I have no freaking idea.
How the hell has she gotten, other than sleeping with John Lennon, how the hell has she gotten any notoriety? She even in the Get Back special on Disney Plus. That's what she does. She literally at one point sits there and does that. What the fuck is the appeal of this woman?
I have no freaking clue. I never done.
Why do people think she's talented?
Because we did not grow
She
up.
was inseminated with John Lennon's holy sperm. Jesus Christ, she's a no-talent idiot.
Do you know who listens to her? All the dope smoking LSD hippies from back in the day.
Who I don't respect.
And those are all your professors who are teaching our children.
Thank
right
you.
now.
Thank you. Thank you. You're right. God,
Morons of the world.
Oh, wait, I got one more to wrap up the weekend edition. One of my favorites of all time, Jon fucking Stewart.
Ugh.
Jon Stewart, who thinks he should be, honestly, Aaron Rodgers, I know he's dating Shailene Woodley, but if Aaron Rodgers was gay, Jon Stewart would be the perfect mate for him. Because these two lateral thinkers
Share the same brain.
Jon Stewart is coming out now.
Oh, he's coming out of the closet finally? That's what I heard.
No, he's calling out Harry Potter and J.K. Rowling because he says that the goblins in the Harry Potter movies are anti-Semitic.
What the fuck is he talking about?
He's got a book from like 1903 where he's got pictures of these caricatures that this guy who is anti-Semitic drew, and he's comparing them to the goblins in the Harry Potter movies, and he's saying, look how they look similar. And he looks at the goblins in the Harry Potter movies and notes, oh, look how they're good with money. Oh my God, she's ripping on Jews.
Jon Stewart is a fucking moron who has no goddamn clue about anything.
Can I point something out to Jon Stewart? even if J.K. Rowling was anti-Semitic,
She didn't
doesn't
do the
care.
book, but she didn't do the movies.
she doesn't control art direction in the fucking movies.
She didn't
Right.
even do the screenplay for the movies.
How is she controlling the look of the goblins in the movies? That's up to the art director. That's not up to J.K. Rowling. Are you telling me J.K. Rowling came in and said, you will make these goblins look like anti-Semitic figures?
From back in a book that nobody has a freaking clue about?
Fuck Jon Stewart. We love you. We hope you tune in next week.
We hope we didn't push you all away with our anti-Semitic behavior.
We're not anti-Semitic. I think Jon Stewart is.
Sounds like it. We love you. Catch you next week.